Former acting director and deputy director of the CIA, Michael Morell, is with us from Washington. He supported Hillary Clinton for president. And CBS News political director and Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson is at the table. Mike, let me begin with you. What is your understanding about what President-elect Trump was briefed?
So it sounds like he received a two-page document that outlined allegations of information the Russians may have on the president-elect that could be compromising. And that two-page document was a synopsis of the 35-page document that was published on BuzzFeed. That's my understanding.
And when you read the pages on BuzzFeed, what did you make of that dossier?
So, Nora, my reaction was I felt like I was back at CIA reading raw intelligence reports. Information from a large number of sources. Some of that information rings true, some of it doesn't, much of it is contradictory. And because you don't have an understanding of who the sources are and how the sources acquired those information, when you read the whole thing, you really can't come to any bottom line about exactly what's true and what's not true here.
But Mike, there's reference to a former MI6 operative, former British intelligence operative. I mean, you would know former British intelligence operatives, I would assume. Is this person credible? Do you know him, and is he credible?
So, Charlie, I don't know him. It's these.
But you know people who know him, I would.
These memos are written as a professional intelligence officer would write up a report from a source. So they appear to be written by an intelligence officer. But again, I don't know if he's credible. And most important, we don't know who the sources are and how the sources got the information.
But, Mike, is it common for the president or the president-elect to be briefed on something that has not been verified? Is that common?
So it is not common. It's uncommon. But in this situation with material that is potentially so politically explosive, I could see a reason why you would give both the president and the president-elect a heads up that it's out there and that you're investigating it.
But wouldn't you do everything within your power to find out whether it was true or not?
You sure would, and that would involve the CIA and the FBI.
John, we're going to have the first press conference by President-elect Trump in about 6 months. This was largely supposed to be about how he was going to divest from his business empire. How do you think he'll handle this news today?
Well, I think probably a version of that tweet, which is to say, deny it all, say it's all fake news, and move on. And every particular that people bring up, he will say that's fake news.
What's the most important question, though?
Well, on this question, what I'd like to, well, he's been highly critical. And one thing, context here is there's an ongoing battle between the president-elect and the intelligence agencies. And some people in Washington see the release of this and the leaking of this information as a kind of, if you know that background of the fight between the two, it's a part of that spat. But Donald Trump has been highly critical of the intelligence agencies, all of them, and the intelligence that they have produced with respect to this question of Russian meddling. So when he was given this annex, did he find any of it credible? And see what was his reaction?
So far seems to be dismissing it because it's on the internet, and you can't really believe what you see on the internet.
Well, two different things, of course, right? The 35-page thing, dismiss it on the internet. That's absolutely right. And there are standards to be maintained both in the press and the intelligence agencies, and all of this needs to be investigated, and apparently is being investigated by the intelligence agencies. Just being on the internet is not reason enough to repeat it, which is a standard that Donald Trump himself did not follow repeatedly during the campaign. Anything that was on the internet or that he came up with, he put out there.
Mike, do you assume that the intelligence agencies that met with the president would have some judgment as to whether some of this was credible because they're worried about the possibility that the Russians may have something on the president-elect?
So much more work would need to be done, and Charlie, I don't know how much has already been done. The FBI could be investigating did these campaign officials actually, were they in Russia when these documents say they were in Russia? The intelligence community should be sitting down with this British MI6 operative and getting a much better understanding of the sources and how they acquired the information. So I don't know where they are in that process. But once you do all of that, you could get to a point where you could make a judgment about what's accurate here and what's not. I will say, Charlie, that the actions described by Russian intelligence and how they operate against Americans who visit Russia, Moscow, St. Petersburg, are absolutely right. audio surveillance, video surveillance. So this is how they operate.
Yeah, this story's not going away, is it, John?
No, in part because you have Republicans who are no fans of Russians and Vladimir Putin's who are looking into a series of issues here, from hacking to meddling in
and are
in the election.
uncomfortable with the president-elect's relationship in terms of what he says.
Right, and why he seems to be so comfortable with Vladimir Putin.
Thank you very much, John Dickerson. We'll see you at the press conference.
Yeah.
No, he'll
Michael
be here
Morell,
with us.
You'll be here with us.
He'll be here
Yeah,
with
yeah,
us.
yeah.
See, Major Garrett will be
Garrett will
at
be
the
there.
press
That's right.
conference. CBS News will bring you live coverage of President-elect Trump's press conference. It begins at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, right here on CBS.